Tonight, we're dialing through a stack of 90s horror curios. The tapes you had to discover by word of mouth, the ones that squirmed out of neat categories and left you grinning, gagging, or both. Not studio darlings. Oddities. No safety rails. Just the weird, the wild, and the wonderfully wrong. Cue the static, dim the room, and don't trust the tracking, because once these tapes start spinning, they don't stop for cents. They stop when the final shiver hits. It starts with an island that feels like a secret the sea is trying to swallow. Dark Waters, 1993, drifts in like a black tide, candlelight guttering down long stone corridors, the walls sweating salt and prayer. A grieving daughter arrives at a secluded convent after her father's death, expecting sanctuary and quiet. The nuns, faces veiled, hands steady, tend rituals that feel older than the building, older than the church, older than language itself. Somewhere beneath that chapel is movement. The film doesn't shout its horrors, it breathes them. Footfalls echo where no one walks. Waves batter the cliff like something knocking to be let in. The closer she comes to the truth, the more the images feel like dreams you only remember in fragments. Symbols carved in shadow, a presence that has waited centuries for someone to finally open the right door. Dark Waters works like a liturgy for an unnamed god. All dread, little explanation, and a last image that lingers like brine on the tongue. From the hush of a convent to pages that won't stay still, in the mouth of madness is where reality springs a leak. An insurance investigator, hard-edged, skeptical, paid to chase hoaxes, goes looking for a missing horror author whose books are rumored to drive readers mad. The towns he passes through feel slightly misaligned, like a map printed off-center. Lines of text start appearing in the world around him. People quote chapters they've never read. Doors open onto places that shouldn't exist, and the author's words behave less like fiction and more like a virus, replicating, infecting, rewriting. Carpenter stages it as a puzzle where the pieces keep changing shape while you're holding them. By the time our investigator finds the writer, it's no longer a search, it's an initiation. The punchline is cruel. You don't finish a story like this. You realize you were inside it all along. Identity splits along its own fault line in the dark half, where a novelist kills off his pseudonym and discovers the mask can bleed. The pen name was supposed to be a tool, more vicious prose under a safer label, but once retired, that persona refuses to stay put, stalking back into the writer's life with a grin like a knife. Two faces, one body of work, and a string of murders that look exactly like the character's signature style. Romero keeps the gore on a simmer and the psychology at a boil, letting the fear creep in through the idea. The person you bury inside your work doesn't disappear. He waits. The dual performance leans into the discomfort. One man worn down by domestic routine, the other a swaggering storm of violence. The dark half is less about a killer on the loose and more about authorship as possession, who's writing whom, and what happens when the page writes back. The 90s were already haunted by screens. Brainscan just plugged the nightmare into the wall. A loner teen fluent in horror signs up for an experimental game that promises no rules, no consequences. The host, slick, theatrical, all appetite, invites him to commit the perfect virtual crime. Then the morning news catches up. The murder happened. A killer app turns literal, and the more our player insists on logging out, the deeper the program pulls him in. It isn't simply a slasher with a synth soundtrack, it's a fable about immersion turning into erasure. Where do you go when the system knows your reflexes better than your conscience? The trickster, all smirk and taunt, becomes the movie's thesis in leather pants. Temptation wears charisma, and it's great at tech support. If fear keeps taking different faces, Cemetery Man gives you a graveyard's worth and shovels them back under one by one. The caretaker's job is simple. When the dead rise 7 days after burial, send them back with a bullet or a spade. He does it with the weary competence of a clerk, accompanied by a hulking assistant who says little and understands plenty. But routine fractures when a woman appears, the kind of obsession that changes the weather and keeps returning in echoes and disguises. The plot loosens, then drifts, then openly dreams. Lovers out of time, skulls under moonlight, a city that looks like a memory you stole from someone else. It's both elegy and punchline, shot like a Gothic painting vandalized with lipstick. By the end, you're not sure if the jokes are tragic or the tragedies are jokes. Either way, the cemetery feels oddly alive. Night of the Scarecrow stirs in the soil like a grudge. A small town digs up more than old sins and gives shape to its guilt. A scarecrow animated by spite and bound to the fields. This isn't a masked man with a sharp tool. It's a spirit stitched from grievance, moving with the rhythm of wind through stalks. Barn doors slam. Tractors cough to life with no one in the seat, and the back roads feel a mile longer than they did yesterday. Rural horror is half landscape and half confession, and the movie understands both. As the body count climbs, secrets do too. Justice, once pure in its own telling, looks messier in daylight and monstrous when it puts on straw. And then, because the 90s loved a good ooze, ticks. The setup is classic. Troubled teens sent to the woods for supervised character building. The complication? Illegal grow-ops, juiced with chemicals that turn the local parasites into swollen, skittering nightmares. This is practical effects playground. Shells splitting, fluids bubbling, infestations that make your scalp prickle. And yet it never forgets the fun. The tone skates between gross out and grins. The attacks escalate with gleeful creativity. And every time you think you've seen the biggest bug the prop team can dream up, something larger thumps onto the frame. It's drive-in biology class. Everything you never wanted to learn about metamorphosis presented in one long scream. Stories told around a fire change depending on who's speaking. Campfire Tales builds a whole night out of that truth. The wraparound is simple. Friends stranded, flame lit, darkness listening. Each tale feels like the memory of an urban legend you can almost finish before the punchline hits. Highway ghosts, stalkers in the rear view, the kind of "this happened to my cousin's friend" lore traded at sleepovers. It's not a carnival of carnage. It's a sampler of moods. Hushed, eerie, fable mean. The best segment knows exactly when to leave you in the silence afterward, glancing over your shoulder. Anthologies live or die by momentum, and this one keeps the ember bright. Short bursts, sharp hooks, that sweet spot where nostalgia and unease shake hands. Some films peer at a mask. Skinner tears it off. The title character wears awkwardness like camouflage, soft voice, polite smile, over a predation he can't resist. What disturbs here isn't scale or myth, it's proximity. The violence is tactile, and the camera refuses the comfort of distance. Performances do the meanest work. Terror with spine on the receiving end, and a killer rendered not sympathetic but horribly legible. You understand the fragile lie he sells himself until it breaks. A direct-to-video shard with sandpaper edges, Skinner, is more about watching a facade sweat and crack than ticking off set pieces. The aftertaste is the point. Finally, pull the curtain back on a family reunion no one should attend. Head of the Family, where pulp horror tangos with body comedy in a house that ignores good taste and zoning laws. The clan at the center is a collection of exaggerated traits: brute strength, feline grace, mean curiosity, and at the center of the web, a mind so oversized it barely qualifies as anatomy anymore. Telepathy, manipulation, petty fascinations. The head speaks and everyone else scrambles. Small town schemers stumble into this odd dynasty and decide to get clever, which is a little like juggling chainsaws while blindfolded. Funny until it isn't. Nothing here strives for plausibility, shoots for outrageous, and sticks the landing in a puddle of camp. Horror works in many registers. Sometimes the cackle is its own kind of menace. What binds this batch together isn't budget or pedigree, it's nerve. Each of these films took a swing at tone or texture that mainstream fare wouldn't or couldn't. None of them ask if you're comfortable. That's the magic of the VHS era's strangest children. They were built to be discovered, not delivered. If you're into the strange and the stubbornly unforgettable, you're in the right place. Like the video, hit subscribe, and be sure to check out some other videos.